Hi everybody, this is Kathleen Clemons, one of the instructors here at the Brian Peterson School of Photography, and it is my pleasure to be one of the two instructors doing the critiques this week. So let's get started with the first photo. Let's go full size so you can get a good look at this. Okay, this image is by Joseph Costos, and this is what he says about it. This is one of 1,600 shots that I took this year of the bicycle leg of the Lake Placid Ironman Triathlon as the riders passed through Wilmington, New York. I've been practicing my panning techniques, trying to get a sharp image of the bike and rider, but showing the fast pace motion of the bikes, including a motion blur of the background and the spinning wheels and tires. I think I succeeded this year with about 500, acceptable shots, this being one of them. He shot this with an AF-S Nikkor 24 to 120 millimeter lens on a Nikon D7000 body at 52 millimeters with an ISO of 100, f4.5 at 1/125th of a second. Congratulations on your successful pan here, Joseph, because these are basically just hard to do. When I pan, I delete lots and lots of images to get some keepers. You need sharp detail in your subject and a well-blurred background, and you've got wonderful detail here. Look how clear the text is, how easily it is to read, which is really important when you have text in a photo because the eye is going to try and read it. I've tried panning my husband races cars, and I've tried panning him going 200 miles an hour, and he wasn't even in the frame. I found that burst mode can be helpful for really fast subjects. But back to your photo. I really like compositionally the anticipatory space that you left here. That is space for the subject to move into. You know, if your frame ended right here, it would be a feeling that the rider was going to run right into the edge of the frame. But you left the rider plenty of space to move into, and there's a good amount of space in the back too. So this is very well composed. I love the blur in the wheels. You can just barely see the spokes, and look at this golden glow around the edges. That looks really great. And you've also got a well-filled background, which is also important for panning because you want that feeling of motion. You need something to blur. If there were empty areas, it wouldn't be as strong an effect at all. The only thing that I would change here is there, to my eye, appears to be a bit of an orangey or yellow color cast to the skin, and I'm guessing this is tar, and it's, if I'm wrong and this is a dirt road and it's supposed to be this color, then my apologies, but it just looks a little overly warm to me. So with that color cast, what could you do? Well, as with everything in Photoshop, there are about 52 dozen different ways to fix it. I would go into NYX Color Effects Pro 4, and there's a filter called Remove Color Cast, which you could easily do. And for all of you, NYX filters are now free by Google. Go to download those if you don't have them already, because who knows how long they'll be free. But it's really powerful software, a big collection, so definitely get that. The other thing you could do would be to add a cooling filter or a color adjustment layer. If you're shooting in RAW, you can deal with that right in the color temperature. But let's just do the cooling filter to show you the difference. So I would go up to Image, Adjustments, Photo Filter. And the first default is a warming filter, which we definitely don't need. So we go to the pull-down menu and go to the cooling filter. Now that's too much. Skin is a little bluish now, but if we take this down to about like that, you can see that this area now has a little bit of a gray look to it, and the skin isn't as orange. If we go to the preview, you can see the before. See how the skin is sort of yellowish? I just think that's a more natural look. But definitely congratulations on your success with panning, Joseph. This is really well done. All right, let's go on to the next photo. This is by Maria Fecht, F-E-H-T, Feet. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name, Maria. This photo was taken with a Sony NEX-5 camera on automatic setting. She said she didn't have much time for photography due to family issues. She's hoping to come back another time. I think we can all understand that. It's definitely hard to shoot if you have your family there, or just if you have family issues on your mind. It's sometimes hard to be creative. The first thing I'm going to suggest is that we need to get you shooting on manual and not automatic, Maria. You don't want to let your camera make decisions for you. You know, you want to be in charge. And the easiest way to do that would be to take the class that we have here, right here at the Brian Peterson School of Photography. It's called Understanding Exposure. I got my start with this class, so I'm sort of the poster girl for online photography education, and how getting a firm foundation in the basics of manual exposure can really, really help with your photography. So that would be my first suggestion for you. But let's look at what we have here. I love the mist. This is really, really pretty. Color is good. I think your green is good, and I think the people add scale. I don't mind those at all. Compositionally, I think less would be more. You know, if it was prime season for these, looks like some type of hydrangea in the foreground, you know, if they were in good shape and full bloom, I think that they could be beautiful as a foreground element. But as it is, I mean, they're in kind of sad shape. I think they take away more than they add, because here's the main story right here. And even in this bench, I probably would include the bench. I like that. So let's see what we could do with a crop to pull this. Well, let's leave the bench to about here for more of a panel look. I'd also pull down in the sky. Let's get this back. Because if this sky had some detail, some clouds, you know, if you'd used a neutral density filter, a graduated neutral density to bring out a little detail, it might be different. But as is, it's a plain white sky. So let's eliminate a little bit of that. Okay, already it's a lot simpler. And we've still got these. So let's see what we could do with content aware. And see if we can just fill that area with grass. Now, content aware is a little tricky. Sometimes it works beautifully. Sometimes it's not even close. So let's try. We're going to grab the lasso tool and just draw around these elements. And then we go to Edit, Fill, and choose content aware. And there we go. I mean, it's not perfect. You'd have to grab your clone tool, you know, and fill in a little to even it out. But I don't think that would be a big job. But you can just see that it's a simpler design. I mean, you know, I like the bench. It's got a bit of an element of loneliness, and I think that goes with this big expanse. But less is definitely more with this one. I'd probably even straighten this a little bit too. I'd go clockwise about 1.5 degrees. It's leaning a little bit to this side. Okay. Next we have a gorgeous shot from Suzanne Landolt. And Suzanne says that this stack is in northwest Iceland and is called an Icelandic, names are hard for me, but let's go, I think it's Vitsker. I took this picture end of July this year, and we were lucky to have falling tide, which makes the green moss appear, giving the picture a completely different feeling. She shot this with a Nikon D4 with a Nikkor 16 to 35 millimeter lens at 17 millimeters with an ISO of 50 at f/22 with a 10-second exposure. And she used a neutral density filter and a polarizer as well to really slow that down. I agree, the moss really does provide a different look here. It's glowing. I think this is well composed. I like the amount of visual weight given to the beach area. It's just right. It's almost 1/3, 2/3 here, 1/3, a little bit less. But I think the composition works really well, and I like where you place the stack in the frame as well. You did a really nice job slowing down the shutter with those added filters for really smooth water. There's also really good texture and details in the rocks and the sand as well. The stack itself is somewhere between a silhouette and visible. By that I mean you can see a little bit of the texture, and I've seen other photos of this particular stack, and the texture is just amazing in that stack. So I would attempt to pull out a little bit of texture here. Now you could do that selectively right in your raw processing or with a layer mask. If you have NYX filters, you could place a single control point here in Viveza 2, a single control point, and pull that texture out. Let's just do that. So let's go to Filter, my NYX collection, Viveza 2, and click on Add Control Point. Put it right in the dark area. Let's make this smaller so that we'll only affect the dark areas right within that circle. And then we'll just take the brightness slider and pull up a little detail. Now I don't want to go like crazy like that. You know, you have to be really careful with sliders in post-processing. Just enough to pull out a little bit more. So let's look at the before and after. So just add a little more detail. You can see that you can just see a bit more texture now. But this is a beautiful shot, and congratulations on that. The next image came to us pretty small, so let's look at that at 200%. So we can get a better look at it. This photo is by Beatriz Consuelo de Mirial. This is an Ave del Paraíso, which is Spanish for, I believe, bird of paradise, because that is the flower. There's no other information with this photo. So when you submit your photos, if you can give us the exposure information, you can tell us a little bit about what you were trying to capture, a little more detail, your lens, your exposure, lighting here, any post-processing that you did. The more information that you give, the easier it is for us to make suggestions. So a bird of paradise is a really, really hard flower to shoot. They have strong lines. It's a messy plant, so getting a decent background is hard. It's difficult to get the simple background that a complicated flower needs. But I think this is just beautiful. I love the blur here, which implies motion in the bird of paradise. And I think that's a wonderful color contrast between the warmth of the flower and the blue in this vase or goblet or whatever it's on. The lighting is also well done. There's plenty of light on the subject, and the background is also a true rich black. There's no light spill on the background causing gray areas. So really nice job with your lighting. The only change I'd make here would be a change to the composition. I'm not crazy about the near square. For me, it feels tight on the bottom. You can see that the blur of the flower is merging with the edge of the background, and I think this feels a little tight here. I think this would be even stronger with a little more space to the left and below. And some of you may not know that you can add canvas now with the crop tool, and it's pretty darn amazing. So let me demo that for you. So you click on the crop tool, and you come up here, and you have to be sure that content aware is checked. And this version of Photoshop that I'm using is Photoshop CC 2015.5. That is the version that will have this new crop tool. So all you need to do really is pull out where you want the extra canvas. So I want a little more on the bottom so that the feathers, shall we say, of the bird of paradise aren't merging with the edge. And I want a little more space here. So I'm going to pull that out. And you notice that I'm now moving the bird of paradise over toward the third. I think that looks good about there. And then I just click return. Okay, and sometimes it will sample a little bit of your subject. So then you just have to go in either with the healing brush or the clone tool and grab that. So let's take that right out. Oops, 100% opacity would help, Kathleen. And then there's sort of a bit of light flare up here. So while I have that tool out, let's grab some black and go over that area as well. So I think that the composition is better here. You can see that there's now a variety of spacing on the sides, which is just a stronger composition. So beautiful, beautiful work though. Pictures that we have for critique this week are all just fabulous. Nice work, you guys. Well, this is adorable. This is by Stuart Monroe. It's a juvenile common frog that he found in the back garden while he was doing some renovation work. He brought it into his mini macro studio setup for some attempts at more abstract portrait shots. He shot this with a Canon EOS 1D3, a Sigma 105mm macro at f11, 1/100th of a second with an ISO of 100. He used two softboxes, one on the left and one on the right, with a touch of flash on the front. This is really, really cute. I have a friend, Lisa Chichera, who shoots frogs, and I'm always amazed at what she gets them to do because I can't imagine convincing a frog to sit on my lens. So kudos to you, Stuart, for that. This is well composed. I like where you chose to place the frog in the frame. Here too, notice the deep, rich black background. There's no light spilling onto the background, so your light control and your softboxes and your touch of fill flash worked really well here. There's also sharp detail in the frog. I think the focus is just where it needs to be. And there's a catch light in the eye, and catch lights add life to living subjects, so that's definitely important. The only suggestion that I would make for any sort of improvement here would be to get rid of these reflections in the lens. I mean, we know it's a lens. I don't think that we need to see the reflections in the glass. I think because I want all the light and the attention to be here, so I wouldn't want any bright points of light down below. So I think the healing brush would be a good choice for those. Just go in and click on them, and they're gone just like that. And maybe that little tiny one there too, although that isn't a big issue. There you go. Really nice work, Stuart. So that's it. That's all 5. Keep those images coming, and remember, make them a decent size. 1,000 pixels on the long side would be nice. And be sure and add your information. We want to see your exposure. We want to know, why you shot it, where you shot it, your lens that you used, any lighting that you added, any filters that you added. The more you can tell us, the more it helps to make suggestions for improvement, or just to know what your thought process was in the photo. So until next time, everybody, happy shooting.